What's up, everybody? This is Landlife. This is the podcast where we talk about everything from everything land, everything water, everything trees, everything that God gave us. One of my best friends on the planet Earth, Ray, is in the house. Genesis Wildlife Group, Lock and Load Sporting Goods. I've been trying to get him on from before this was even a thing. I've been trying to just say, hey, listen, just come talk to me like once a week. So you're going to see him, hopefully, if we can get him to smile and enjoy this. We're going to get to milk every ounce of knowledge that he has in, for me, trees, and then like he's like talking to a biologist compared to me just having a green thumb, me getting in the strategy in the weeds on big whitetails. And he really pours his heart and soul into learning why things do things and how they grow, and apples and trees. Like those are where I really look for big knowledge from Ray. So what's up, buddy? How are you? You in the office?
My head doesn't fit in the screen now.
That's okay. That's okay.
We all up, not to say things wrong.
This is all about big knowledge and helping folks, whether it be trees, whether it be, food plots, or, in life. I mean, when we met, a little background where how me and Ray met. I mean, you're in New York, right? How do I say it? I always say it wrong. Oswego, Owego.
Oh, no. There's two towns. Owego up north, and we're a little bit closer to the Pennsylvania border. Owego. Oswego, we're in
Owego. And where is the new Lock and Load at? It's in Pennsylvania?
20 minutes over the border. From here, 20 minutes from here, just over 1 mile over the border in Little Meadows, Pennsylvania.
And then Owego, New York. Yeah, right. Okay. So when I met Ray, nothing happens by accident, right? Like we're supposed to be in each other's lives. I call you my brother. I love your family. It's so inspiring to watch you work with your boys. It really makes me want to have, like, how many boys you got? 6?
4.
4.
4 boys, 2 girls, and then like 14 grandbabies now.
Yeah, man. That was such a blessing. So for me, it is, I wish I had all that muscle, because your guys are big and strong, and then you got the youngins, they're coming up. I wish I had that workforce. Like I should have got married young. I just started working on kids. I'd have my own workforce like you do, putting in and managing property. So Ray was in my life when I was at my lowest, and it wasn't at my lowest really spiritually. Like I knew right? Well, not spiritually, but just all my dreams were taken from me with all the circumstance of my things that I did. But you were in my life at a time where I was just like, this is what I want to do, is put it back into the earth and figure out the fastest way to grow switchgrass, the fastest way to do miscanthus, the fastest way to do trees, because I knew that there was men out there and there was clients out there that if I poured my time and my hard earned, blood, sweat, and tears that I didn't mind giving, that I could find good relationships in men. You're one of them through that, and helping me, go with what God had me, which is why I love land. And so when you look back at a time when I was down and out, all I really had was a truck, a tractor, a trailer, and I wanted to work land, and I was trying to get out of, debt and pay off my fines, and I couldn't hunt. Where do you see us, how we came in? Like, what is the story? Like, what's the story that you remember about meeting me or knowing who I was before or whatever?
I'm trying to remember. I think it was miscanthus, actually.
Yep.
I wasn't sure if you reached out. I think you reached out to me about miscanthus.
I had always followed your Instagram because you had really cool stuff. Remember the one where you look like, bigger than life, walking through the fire where you guys were burning that day or whatever. Like, and you had the big green Genesis Wildlife Group on your shirt. And I was just like, these guys are doing really amazing things. They're not doing the fake stuff that we see on Instagram and content now. You guys were really doing this big stuff. And you're one of the first people I know that was planting miscanthus, even from Maple River, and experimenting with these things.
Yeah.
Way before anybody heard of anything being done. And it was really that you had done the apple trees, you had done the orchards, you had done the planting of pines and all the tree stuff back when it was 10, 20 years ago, right? Like your whole life.
Yeah.
Maybe further. And then you got into the Miscanthus world, and that was so attractive to me going, what do they know? Hey, here's where I'm at. Teach me. And you were kind enough to teach me, because that's what you'd really, I think that's why you're on this earth, is teach those boys and to teach those youngins after that. But then you just have a passion, man, for teaching. So,
Well, I remember, I'll tell you, when the phone call came in and I didn't recognize it, I think it was sitting in a parking lot in Walmart or something. The wife was in there, and you see Chris Brackett. I'm like, Chris Brackett? I mean, the Chris Brackett that I remember, I remember meeting you with my boys. My boys are all 6 feet plus. They were just little towheads. And we were at the ATA. I remember you coming over to see boys. You bent down and said, "You guys coming to my place? We're going to shoot fish." You didn't know us from Adam. We didn't walk up to you. You walked up to them, got down on your hands and knees and said, "We're going to shoot some fish off a boat. When you coming to my place?" And at that point, I thought, wow, this guy is cool. This guy's really, now it never happened, but it was just the fact that you got down on your hands and knees and talked to the boys. Now you got to get on the step ladder to talk to them. You do.
yeah, man, I'm 6'1", and I'm 6'1", and all of them are taller than me, aren't they?
Oh, yeah. Yeah. So I think we clicked right off the bat as far as, the miscanthus part, the plantings, and so that's the first recollection I can remember.
Our hearts were aligned in the fact that we loved archery, because you guys have how long has your Lock and Load Sporting Goods been there?
So 20 years to
with this month, right?
Not this week. No, actually 20 years. This is the year. This is our 20th year.
That's incredible. So you sold bows and weapons and all kinds of stuff, and just provided New York and Pennsylvania and the surrounding states with things for hunting. And so you loved the same thing I did, which was all the products, all the cool stuff, going to the ATA back when it was good, seeing all the stuff. And then that's where I met the boys. I was probably at that time either between Matthews or Bowtech. I was probably so into archery, because that was when I was so into it. And I was probably over there shooting, had the sideburns.
The sideburns came all the way down and pointed. And yeah, I thought to the boys, don't want to hang around this guy.
Yeah, my tattoos were shining. But you had to get to, that's probably a perfect example of, that's kind of a perfect example of really my heart was in the right place. But I for some reason, I thought I needed my tattoos. I thought I was playing, I was in this character that was on TV and doing all that, but I just loved, man, I stayed with diamond bows for so long, shooting probably, Levi's not going to shoot the bow I was shooting. These top guys weren't going to shoot the bow I was shooting, but I knew that you, being a archery selling company, could sling $349. What were those bows? They were rock solid, but they're so adjustable, 24 inches all the way up to 30. Price point bow.
But we still carry them.
Yeah, they're still. And so for me, I was going to shoot maybe a non-machined riser. You know what I mean? Like they were affordable, and I knew that your boys, as an example, they would all want what the rocker Chris Brackett was shooting out of the air, and I get their attention, and normal kids just. So I shot that diamond forever when I probably could have been shooting a higher quality bow.
The Infinite Edge.
The Infinite Edge, yeah. And yeah, everybody could have. I still have a bunch bow fishing. At the time, we were bow fishing, and we could, a client would come in and get on the boat, and I'd hand them a different bow and whatever. But so that's the first story of meeting the boys. And you don't miss, as tall as you are, big as you are, and then having all these youngsters step down, and they were all blonde headed, right?
Oh yeah. Still are.
Yeah, still are. So then that was the first meeting, and then we met over Miscanthus and then Food Plots, and then we talked. Up until you started the second business, and now I got like 4 businesses rolling and trying to keep everything up with both of us doing consults and just making people's properties awesome. We don't get a chance to catch up as much, but we know that we care about each other. And so when we do talk, what's been going on in your life? Because we used to talk every day. What's the big happening in New York and helping folks now? And I know you got a new soybean because I'm with White Gold and I helped develop some of those seeds. What what can you remember about how we first started hanging out and talking, and then how that's transpired to what you're doing now, and then what we're both doing now? If you can answer all them, kind of a
Well,
fun journey.
yeah, I can tell you, anybody that's in this business of trying to make things better, to figure out what's the next step we can go to in regards to making products better. You know, we're never sitting on our hands.
Right.
So back when we started planting food plots, back when I was 16 years old, from scratching a rake in the middle of the woods and going down to local seed store and sweeping up where the hopper missed the truck and
Yeah.
throwing it out there to now testing different varieties, different maturity groups, has just taken us to another level of why we're using what we're using and what separates us from the next guy.
Okay, so Genesis Wildlife Group. Okay, that's one company. That's how kind of we bonded. I have been to Lock and Load. I have not been to the news store. And then you help provide and distribute different products on the East Coast to people like Cubby at Bordeaux Brothers, right?
Yeah,
And
good,
so you
great
kind
friend
of
of mine.
got your hands in a couple things. So Genesis Wildlife Group provides content on Instagram. If you're not following them right now, go look up Genesis Wildlife Group and then look up Lock and Load's got their own page, right?
No, no, because we're very local to the
But yeah,
area.
Genesis Wildlife Group does everything. I mean, Lock and Load has all your needs as far as hunting stuff and even clothing. And then the boys even doing the deer thing, skinning the deer and even mounting and stuff. I mean, you guys do it all. But Genesis, if you guys are just wanting to know more about following Ray and knowing our relationship between, going back and forth and learning, Genesis Wildlife Group, got to follow them. Instagram, Facebook. You guys are a little lean on that. Got late to the game on Facebook, but it has the same content because the boys are uploading both to both. So you can follow on either one. Instagram is definitely the one you have a better presence on. And so there's more content. I love when you get wound up and do the lives in the field. So they're definitely a place to go, not only to learn about seed and switchgrass and trees and all the things that they're doing in the field on the Genesis Wildlife Group side. Then Lock and Load, the family runs this place to get your stuff local. You guys don't do a lot online, right?
Nothing.
Yeah, nothing online as far as Lock and Load. So just shop local is what I'm saying. If you're in the area, stop by, see these guys. They're legit. But the wildlife side of things is Genesis Wildlife Group. And so that is what we're talking about. So a lot of times we get into what you're doing, and people will go, well, does Ray make seed? Like, what does he do? Does he grow trees? And be like, well, no. No is probably the most honest answer. And then you can kind of back that up with, we don't grow our seed. You manage farms, you plant miscanthus trees, and you provide management for bigger farms, right? And that they don't have to worry about. They come to their farm and you're just rocking and rolling with new testing of your new beans from Analogic or whatever, and you're testing the stuff at 200-300 pounds to the acre, and and then while you're doing that, you're kind of teaching other guys, hey, here's the seed that we are experimenting with, and then blinds too, and so it's kind of a fun thing, but I don't really know if there's one thing that you guys do.
Well, to clarify, so Genesis Wildlife Group is what we consider our outdoor division of our company.
Oh,
So we have the retail side, and we have the outdoor division, and
that's a good
because
way.
we've managed so many different farms and consult so many acres and all up and down the coast into the Midwest, there have been companies like Analogic, Shadow Hunter, Grizzly, um, there's quite a few of them that have said, "Wow, you use a lot of our material. Why don't you distribute?" So one of my biggest things, and one of the things that I get so much gratification over, is I help set up new dealers
Mhm.
up and down the East Coast. When I was first starting out lock and load, there was a gentleman that helped me in a huge way, Jim Bainbridge, from he owned Shadow Hunter Blinds out in Marcellus, Michigan. And in order to become a dealer, you had to spend 20 grand to buy a tractor trailer load. That's how
And that was like
I
60. That was like 60 G's nowadays. 20 grand back then, to sell blinds. I mean, really, 20
so
years ago.
yeah. So Jim, I said, Jim, there's no way I can do that. So he said, he's not to tell you what, we're going that way. We'll drop 2 blinds off. And they've never had a distributor. Thank the Lord, we were able to move so many blinds. They said, would you distribute for us? So we arranged that. Now we became a distributor, a
Yeah.
legitimate distributor here in the East Coast that helped mom and pop shops like myself that can't or couldn't afford to buy $10,000 worth of Millennium tree stands or $20,000 worth of blinds. Buy onesies, twosies. We've got freight rates that ship all up and down the coast for a very reasonable price. So that got us in there. But I think our heart and soul is in the management of properties.
Well, I see 2 inspiring stories about that. One, there are still great people out there, like the gentleman that helped you get started.
Yeah.
So if there's a guy, let's say in Maryland, that he's looking for an extra, in a word, hustle. To me, it's not a bad job. You got to find something extra to do with your time. You can't be in the bar. You can't be in the stuff. Spend that extra time. Get your buddies, get your dad, get your whoever, and then go like, I think I want to be a dealer. I think I got a nice little network here that may work into some seed and some blinds. I got a guy right now, my buddy Randy from North Carolina. He is fired up to find something else in the industry, in whatever. I just had this giant talk with him that was like, listen, get a few blinds, get a hold of, this distributor or whoever. And he might be, I don't know if you do North Carolina, but
yeah, all over to Florida, Vermont to Florida.
It's about relationships. Like you built the first one with the Shadow Hunter guy. And then through that, these other people are like, well, can you be a distributor for us? And then that's what you do with the lock and load side and the Genesis Wildlife Group. And then it always piggybacks and it's stackable businesses. So if you guys, the first one was, if you're out there and you're listening, there are people like Ray that you can say, hey, listen, I just want to buy one trailer of blinds. Can I set up as a what would you call it? A retailer for your distribution?
Dealer. Yeah, a dealer.
A dealer.
Their area.
Yeah.
And you don't have to buy a trailer. I'll sell you half a pallet of goods. Let's get you tiptoe into this.
Mm-hmm.
Make sure it's something you like and it's profitable for you. Boom. We started. I can tell you, what's gratifying about this is we've helped start so many mom and pop shops and guys that contractors or landscapers that just their heart and soul is to be in the woods and the hunting thing. They just want to be a part of it. Now they're a part of it.
Yeah.
Now they've got their own stores. They've got their own bulk food bakery guys that are big hunters, and now they're offering ammunition and food plot seeds.
And they start by just getting a hold of you. It's just somebody being inspired. You're putting your nose to the grindstone. I mean, where I come from, like, stay out of those bars, stay out of these gambling places, stay out of this other stuff. Take that money, buy a couple blinds, go set them up for guys. Maybe your labor's free, but you sold the blind. Maybe the blind is what it is, and you're able to go build a platform for it. Or maybe you're like, hey, test this seed for me. Or hey, how about, hey, I'll buy this blind for you, but can you help me put in a food plot? And then all of a sudden it starts into a big
snowballs.
It snowballs.
It's super fun. And now we're probably 100 dealers plus.
Yeah.
That we've been able to sign up. And that comes and goes. Some guys drop off. It doesn't work. You don't know unless you try.
But this isn't how much business do you think that you have when it comes to the dealer side? Because I'm a dealer for you, and I get my flyer or my email quarterly, of what the new prices are and what we're buying as essentially a group and what we're trying to provide for our, me, I have so much other stuff. For me, if I sell $1 million farm to one of the guys listening, that's where I pay my bills. The other stuff, I just go, hey, call Ray and he can ship it to you. Call White Gold alone. They can ship it to you. Call, so me, I kind of don't have that capacity because I don't have a bunch of strong, good looking dudes, my sons, right, that can just take care of all this. It's just me. So I got to know where my bandwidth is. So for me to do this, sell land, do the consults, do the online stuff, and then take care of my girls, my mom and Jody's mom and Jody, I can't get in too much into the weeds on the distributing, but what a great opportunity. I didn't even really think that we were going to go this direction, but you're distributing. When you do that, are you looking for dealers now? Is it only on the East Coast?
No, we just set up, matter of fact, we'll be in Kentucky on a seminar of a big place we just set up. Trying to think, Crofton, Kentucky.
Okay.
Triple J Fence and Farm.
Right in the middle? Well, they can. You're going to have an announcement on your Instagram, so they're going to go follow you anyway. So.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
And what's nice about this is there are already guys that are something like you with White Gold. There's other guys that are in with other good.
You don't have to give it up. You're just adding to your arsenal.
Add it.
Because if we really, you and me are really in this to help people and make a good living while we do it, and to help people, and the money comes secondary, really. And the structure of the business is really, hey, here's my line. You and I would rather go help someone for free than to compromise our prices and just go spend time with them and bond with them. That's what your boys are like. Hey, Dad, look. Don't they give you hard? Hey, Dad, look. That guy's tree tubes are bent over. You guys are on a ride, and they're like, well, hey, Dad, joking around. Why don't we stop and help that guy? Because you guys do help so many people, but you just feel, that's what God's put on your heart, and they're giving you a hard time about it. But you do. You just jump in with both feet. You've helped Ritz, and you've helped Lindsay's and things like that. And at the same time that you're, all these guys that I've known for a long time, you're kind of jumping in there because, let's be honest, they have a big bandwidth of people that will continue our message, my message, your message, which is the stewardship of the land, the planting stuff, the watching things grow. No matter how much money you have, or no matter how many things that are out there in the world that everybody's chasing, you, me, and your boys, and even your wife and the grandkids and the girls, the two girls I love to death, we all do know that growing that little bitty seed into something and then having a critter eat that, and then like that reward, or watching that tree that you guys planted, or the trees in my bottoms that we got off you and put them and went through that process. That is the most rewarding thing on the planet, and it's biblical.
Yeah. I can't wait to go back 20 years and take my grandsons back with a picture of them holding the dibble bars and show them the apple trees that they planted. They don't even remember planting.
Mm-hmm.
The gratification there is, I remember my dad showing things like that to me of what he did when he was a kid, and it just blew my mind. So to be able to do that, to be able to create a legacy that can be appreciated, is certainly rewarding.
And is that why you named like the trees? Right now I think I have 7 or 8 different kinds of trees that I've gotten from Genesis Wildlife Group, from pears to Dolgo crab apples, right? To apple trees, to pears, plums. Yeah. What are the conifers that I have? The big 2 white pines and the 2 spruces, Norway spruces. And we've planted all those on my farm, and I have had my nephews help. And the Dolgo should produce their first apples around. If any of you guys ever pay attention to my Instagram and all my stuff, you'll see these beautiful trees with tree tubes that are 3 years now out 15 foot tall. And they were planted at, stock that was this, but the roots were too, and that's your key. And you call them legacy. What'd you call that?
This legacy stock. Yeah.
Legacy stock.
That's stock that we've tested over the years that I don't guarantee anything. When you have livestock, you'll have dead stock, but they are stock that when you put a tree tube, one of those Tree Pro tree tubes over it, they've proven themselves year after year after year to pop that tube in almost a year, 1 year.
1 year.
Now, soil, sunlight, all these things come into play, but they're hardy stock that typically inside of 5 years you'll have nuts or fruit.
That's incredible. So trees for me, before I met you, 20 years of my life wasted. I did not have one tree survive. I didn't know that you plant the roots, not the how do you say it?
Yeah, you pay attention to the roots. Now, you don't worry about the top.
Yep.
You want to pay attention to what's underneath. That's what you're buying. You're buying rootstock, not trees.
Do you have any that if people are listening right now, or are you already spoken for? I know when it gets tree time, and this being the kind of a warm already end of winter, early spring, you got to plant in you got to plant early, right? Because you're planting those roots. Like, have you them all
Yeah.
sold, or can somebody buy 100 apples or 100 oaks or
The only
something?
thing I've sold out of so far, and I think it was just a communications mistake. I ran out of pear, but I've got plenty of apple, plenty of plum.
If you see any of our pictures out there, guys, on our Instagram, and you watch me planting, and watch Ray post about the trees that he gets. This is just one of the things that Genesis Wildlife does in distributing and planting. Like, you guys have probably been planting this whole week, right? Like, of trees. And so if you're thinking trees, this is what I was going to say. If you're thinking trees, you have to be thinking way ahead to get the right stuff and to get it to you and to not get it sold out. You better be thinking during hunting season, while you're sitting there, start planning what you're going to plant around and get a hold of Ray, because by the time everybody thinks trees, it's almost too late. They're planning for next year almost.
I'm usually placing my order for rootstock 2 years ahead because I'll sell out.
Sell out. And the stuff that you don't, we're going to put them in on our own farms, right? That's just plant them.
Which is usually in August or September when you're not supposed to be planting trees.
Yeah, they've been in the bottom of the barn, and you're like, I know these are close. I can water them. I can keep them alive. I can do whatever. One day I might replace one on somebody's farm. I can dig it up. But you better be planting. You better be planning to plant. And then so back to that, the series of questions I said was like, I love people's opinions about where. So you met me a long time ago. You let me through my series of of craziness with the lawyers and the feds and going after me and me doing wrong, but just through that whole thing, watching the world take away my stuff, but me not losing my faith, and then us having conversations daily. Like, there wasn't a coincidence that we talked every day and you led me through this world. I mean, you led me through this world that you just said, listen, this isn't your home. Like, you love Jesus, and you say, and you would always, the one thing that I always know about Ray is so many people will tell you that they're saved or that they know the Lord and they know Yahweh and what Jesus did. But you always question in a good way as a father, because you're a great father, you're a great grandfather, great husband. And like, those are the things where it's incredible, and it's incredible and inspiring to men. And this is my mission with Landlife. My mission may be to tell you about trees and tell you about switchgrass and big giant deer and how to strategize. But the main thing is how to strategize through this world that God has already laid in front of us. And he has everything that you're supposed to do, and it's written. And you question a lot the person that says, like, tell me about this. When you, and what I'm going with this is, you will always question and make sure that you know that you're saved, right? Like, you're a big one on making sure that I know that my progressive sanctification is on point, where my heart is. Yes? Or how would you describe that? How would you talk about that? That's important to me, because I know you're the only one that really questions and just you're not questioning it for you to judge or validate. You're asking me to say, like, well, How is that walk? Like, are you in the word? Are you walking with him? Like, do you know, are you sacrificing Harrisburg? You weren't there on Sundays because that sacrifice to you is like, this is my day with my family and my Lord. And you love Christmas because of Jesus's birth. And tell me a little bit about that with like progressive sanctification and you just kind of being on our butts. Like, yeah, make
Well,
sure you're,
I'm not on your butt.
I want,
That,
no, but I
right.
want you to have my back. I want you to push me in that.
Well,
You're one of the only
you know,
men in my life that does that, like that's good.
well, so first of all, salvation is a one-time thing. You don't get saved and resaved and resaved. The Bible
Right.
says, we put our faith and trust in the Lord, and He commits Himself to us. Um, and there's obviously repentance involved from what we
Mm-hmm.
used to do. He changes our life. I got saved when I was 16 years old, and He changed my life. Am I still a sinner? Certainly, and that's why we read our Bible and we go to church and we hang around with people that are saved, and we try to continually evaluate our lives and make sure we're right with the Lord. Um, but that's a personal thing that each of us needed to do. And
Remember, that's me explaining it in Brackenese, right? So I have you understand. Like, doesn't matter what I say today. Me and Ray are going to the same place. We're family in that and understanding. He knew whatever I just said wasn't. But you have to remind yourself, like when I said all that, he was like, oh, I don't know where he's going. But understand that he knew that it's not meant bad. I'm not putting on the spot. I'm just saying, you make sure that I'm very strong in my faith by asking me several times we ride together and whatever, that you're just like, you're there. And then you see my heart through many more conversations of men being together and acting like, sharpening, like iron sharpening iron, just acting like men and asking that question. If you're
the,
saved, you're saved.
the great thing is the Lord knows our heart. We certainly don't always make the best decision or the right decision. We're all sinners. We all make mistakes. We have a Savior that's forgiving, and knows our heart. That's the beautiful thing. I can't see your heart. I can't look at someone and say they're not saved. I can see their actions, and
And the
actions,
fruits.
man, that's the actions. They speak sometimes louder than words.
Yes, sir.
But thankfully, we have a Savior that's you know long suffering, full of grace and mercy.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I'm in the season right now where both my mother-in-law and my mother are just in this time of you wish you could take their pain away. You wish, that that you can protect them, and you can't. You can't. You can just be there along with them in the suffering of the pain that they're experiencing on this earth. But at the end of the day, this isn't their home, and it's only a grain of sand compared to an entire beach, entire desert full of eternity. An eternity by, it's as simple as we hear, Jesus died for our sins, but He really just gave up the entire world or anything here, for us. And why can't we give up, dying to self every day? Momentary, affliction for a lifetime of serving such a great God. You know, what would you tell men? So like it's not a secret that what happened to me by just making a worldly thing by shooting a secondary deer and didn't know if it was dead and da 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 and going through all this. I had to set down everything in this world that I had accrued in my dreams and all that. And through that, right, it's amazing. You, several other men, Darren Hoffmeyer, Jeff Klopfenstein, um, Brent, and these other men all of a sudden started showing me, Chad Herman, these guys started showing me like, hey man, I know that you lived for this, and it was fun and it was great, but I think God has other things for you. You have to stay faithful, and you have to sometimes be calm, and you have to sometimes be where you're listening more than you're talking, which I love to talk. You love to talk, but sometimes we just have to listen. Where do you have to say from where when we met and then like to now? How do you what do you have to say about that? Like even in growing things and even in growth, I'm just a little bit younger than you, but you've been really a great big brother to me in all this. Landlife's only possible right here because you, Cubby Burdell, these guys that not kind of really helped me out in direction, in business, in how much to give away as a blessing to others, and then how much to just kind of, structure this, and then how much I called you today to go like, well, what's my daily? What is my worth? And I think, not only does that come down to business and our knowledge and our labor, but what's our demand on us? And then what do we do with that how does that work with the Bible as well? Like our worth. How do we go through worth? Because when I had everything taken away, I felt worthless, but I found myself in Christ. And everybody goes like, Brackett, fear no evil, da, 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 da. All of a sudden he found Jesus. It wasn't like that. Like he was working on this whole thing for good. People meant it for bad. He meant it for good in this whole thing. And how do you see that playing? And then like, how does that worth happen with the business and what we're growing and then with Christ?
Well, I think one of the first things I'd have to say is, the Word of God says this, he who is without sin, let him cast the first stone. Okay, so we all have our issues. We've all made our mistakes. Some people just out in the open, and some of those scars we wear openly, But when the Lord saves someone, and this is true in wildlife. I'm a huge habitat guy. I love creating habitat for wildlife, and it always amazes me when we cut a tree off how the Lord regenerates that stump.
Pruning.
I don't. All I did was cut the tree off. Okay. I don't fertilize it. I don't lime it. I don't mow it. I don't disc it. I don't do anything. I walk away from it. I come back and I see not just one shoot coming off of it, but I see 25 shoots coming off of it.
New life.
When a person gets saved, when they've realized that, look, I can't get to heaven by myself. Now, first of all, they got to.
No matter what you do, the acts and the works, you can't get there.
You can't get there.
No.
So we got to put our faith and trust in something. Why not trust the Lord? Okay, and His Word. So when a person gets saved, the Lord regenerates them. Nothing we do. We can try to change our ways. When a person really gets saved, I'm not talking about a Sunday Christian. I'm not talking about a Sunday night Christian. I'm talking about a person that's really gotten saved. The Lord regenerates them. Now they're a Christian Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, in their speech, in their actions, in their thoughts. Doesn't mean we don't fail. But that regeneration, the Lord does. And He makes it very obvious. I mean, right now, past couple Sundays, we've heard the pastor preaching in 1 John, chapter 3. There's a lot of all of 1 John. There's a lot of indications or evidences that the Word of God shares with us that prove that we're saved through this regeneration. So I encourage people that if they don't know the Lord, put your faith and trust in Him and let Him regenerate you.
Yeah, and if you look at like what you taught me the time we were at Giant Goose Ranch, we had these apple trees out front, which goes into the Landlife part of it, and that's why it just goes so much hand in hand. Is I remember you grabbing the easy cuts at the time and going out in the front yard. We woke up early in the morning. You're out there, and you're like, "Man, who's pruned these trees back?" Right? And I'm like, I don't even know what you're talking about. And you're like, listen, it has different heads going different directions. It's kind of like riding two things, going to church on Sunday and then living in the world the rest of the week. And what job you're at, are the people around you, all these things, are they nurturing you? You can't be given, like that tree is always a perfect example to where and here's the fun part. You're like, listen, there are kind of rules to this. There are kind of things to this. You're like, you can't have two trunks of this tree. They're trying to feed both. So you can't serve two masters, right? So you give everything to the Lord. You give everything to what the gospel says. It doesn't matter right now. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter right now if you're going, hey man, can I smoke weed and love Jesus? Well, why don't you just try the Jesus thing, and then probably the weed will probably fall off, right? And why do you got to give up these things? Okay, do I have to give up this and this? I'm like, no, but I'll promise you, if you cut this off right here and you're going toward Jesus and you know what the Bible says, this other stuff you'll want to give it up, right? So you don't got to be fixed now. Let them fix you. Right. So when you're doing the trees, do what? Regeneration.
You can't fix yourself.
Yeah. So when you have this tree and this apple tree goes up, right? What are my rules? You're looking for that main trunk that has maybe it has 5 kind of heads going out. What are you going to do? You're going to see where the base splits, kind of like antlers, like they split. What are your rules when it comes to pruning apple trees? Like, I know I have to go do that in the next week.
So typically on wild trees, and a lot of people have these throughout their pears, apples, anything that grows inward and upward, cut it out.
Okay.
Now these newer trees, people eating trees, even if you want to prune trees, typically your dwarf stock and your semi stock.
So anything that grows in, you're talking about like coming off of a main and it's growing toward the trunk?
Yeah. Okay. Cut it off.
Out.
All right. And anything that grows upward.
Okay. So if it's coming off this and then up, so you got this kind of whatever this main guy is, look for these ones going back in, and then look for these ones that are going straight up. Those are climbing for the sky. We want to get rid of them. We want to get rid of the guys going in. Anybody going out, we leave.
Yeah. So the other big thing is, and this is 20 years ago when I started an orchard, I had a consultant that was consulting me, and he came to us more than that, 25 years ago. Anyway, he came up and I had just planted. I just spent a wad on planting acres and acres of apple trees. And this is for production. And he came up and he said, now look, you got all these branches. You got to take I'm thinking, you got to be kidding me. I'm not cutting any of my branches. You're out of your head. These things are growing and they're growing well. And of course, I needed to learn this. But what you want to do is you want to look at that main leader, that main stem.
Okay.
Any branch that touches it, comes in and touches where it touches the main leader. If it's half the size of the main leader or bigger, you need to cut it off.
Okay. So you've got your main trunk, goes all the way up, starts tapering. But anywhere it comes off right here, like my finger to the size of my arm, that's fine. But if it's another fist coming off this arm, you have to get rid of him. Half the size.
If it's half the size or bigger, take it out, because that rootstock is going, which is the head. And if you leave it, you watch that branch that comes off will eventually meet, and it'll become taller than the main leader.
So it'll go out and it'll form its own and chase in the sky. Right. And then now you've got a whole nother problem. Is there a time when we should prune these? Like, should you prune way to the bottom and get rid of those guys? Or just follow the whole, if it's coming off of a branch and it's headed toward the main of the tree, get rid of it. Or if it's half size of whatever it's coming off, trim it. And is it too late in the spring to do it now? Is it a winter thing?
Closer to spring, the better. The misnomer, I don't think it's a misnomer. People want to prune all through the winter, which is fine. That's when we have a chance. When I had 20,000 trees I had to prune by hand, I was starting whenever I could,
right?
Getting into it. But the closer to spring, the closer to budding, the better it is.
If it's budding, can you do it?
Yeah, you can. I've done it. I've had to. Sure, it works.
Well, we got trees already budding here with 70 degrees this week.
Yeah.
So
you're ahead of it.
I mean, they're definitely going to freeze again. We're going to get frost this week.
Yeah, I know. This is crazy weather.
It's crazy weather. It's not normal. So so we talked a little bit about trees. We talked a little bit about all this other stuff. So where do you think what do you think this season looks like as far as growth? Um,
Every season's different, man. I tell you, you don't know.
you're
Last year
already
we,
planting switchgrasses though, right?
oh yeah,
You like the stratification process where I like maybe because I'm spoiled in Illinois to plant later in June. Like later, like June, like late May.
well, you've had good success. Look, people that I'm not gonna knock it because if it ain't broke, you don't fix it. For me, we want that stratification. We do not have. I look at your farms. I look at Ritz's farms out in the Midwest, and I think to myself, you guys are just spoiled when it comes. You could throw it on the ground and walk away, and it's 3 feet tall in 3 weeks. It just makes me sick. I got a farm that I manage here in a little north of me, and those guys, they're tow truck guys. They go out and throw switchgrass in the field and it grew. I don't know. I have no clue how they what happened there, but it's tough. Switchgrass out here in the east is definitely tougher than
Do you think it's just because it doesn't because of the rocks or the subsoil or something doesn't have to get to 67 degrees before it germinates?
uh,
The
no, I think
soil,
it's quality of soil is what it is.
just the
Uh,
soil.
it's quality of soil. I find that switchgrass, miscanthus grass, all does way better in very rocky ground because that soil heats up quicker. So yeah, gravel ground is super for switchgrass and miscanthus.
So for me, I I love waiting till May, end of May or 1st of June to put in the switch. And if people were like, well, how do does if Ray's been doing it way longer than Chris and these other guys been doing it maybe longer than me, the Sturgis of the world or whatever. But I think the part that they forget, and I don't really get to talk about it, is I had a timeout for 3 years. I had more ground than I knew what to do with, and all my time went into building education where my brain is photographic and a lot of parts of that and how I plant what I do. And so Ray would say, "Well, here's how you do it." And I would listen to Jeff Sturgis or somebody say, "This is how you do it." And I would go take it and I would push the limits of that. And over that was a lot of feedback even for you and me to discuss. Why am I able to? Well, this year I pushed it. I took that new switchgrass that you had, and I actually had it a year frozen off and on and in the garage and locked up tight. So it kind of stratified in there, but I took it out in July when we got all that rain. I lost all this miscanthus because I was waiting to get it in the ground. And then I sat on it and I was like, I don't know what I'm going to do. And then I had all this stuff marked up for switchgrass, but because we had zero water in June, I don't know if we had a rain in June. I waited so long and I went ahead and put it in July, and I got, you know, 2 foot of growth on this new switchgrass planted in July. And then this
Yeah.
year, as long as I put simazine or something on it early, like now, that stuff will be giant this year.
One thing you want to pay attention to, I heard you say that you waited a year. One thing about switchgrass, it's spooky.
It's spooky.
You, you,
No,
you,
that's what,
you,
but yeah, no, I'm glad you're saying this, but realize, guys, if I'm doing it most of the time, and it was just because I didn't get it in the year before, and I had a couple bags that I put out here. I'm pushing the limits of it to see if it'll be a success or a failure. That's the only way for me and Ray to understand. If when we advise you, hey, here's this, we're trying to give you the optimal way to plant it and the optimal conditions and then how to do it. And then if you're like, oh, I think I waited a week too long, you're like, you're good. That's why we told you between here and here, we've done it as late as this. And so, yeah, go ahead and preface it with that. If you
one thing I
switchgrass
just
is
want,
tricky because why? It's a live seed.
well, that it loses its germination very quickly. Okay, so it's not one of those things like clover and alfalfa and other small seed products that you can go 2, 3, 4 years. It's still good. You'll lose a little germination in the process. Switchgrass is tricky. man, it could be absolutely dead and gone on after 1 year. So we fortunately and unfortunately for us, we get tested very every year by Ag and Market or at the who is it, the USDA, whoever comes in here and
You're
does our
talking about
testing.
your seeds. They come in, check them out.
They check them out, make sure they test them. And I've literally had switchgrass seed come in that was that year. I got it in a month ago. They tested it and went, whoa, 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 you're not up to stuff here. So I've had to go back to some of the suppliers and go, well, wait a minute now. And it wasn't that the seed was bad. It didn't meet the germ. Like we're saying it's 90% germination rate. You better test 90. You can't test 87.
Don't you think
So,
that that's probably the biggest reason for non-successful food plots is
oh,
seed,
listen,
germination,
everybody
how
go
old
out
they
there.
are?
Yeah, everybody. Oh, I can get my corn from NWTF. That's 5 years old. They're giving it
Right.
away for $2 a.
It's
Fine.
free, but Ray, it's free.
That's right.
That's
And
what I
look, we
hear.
had no problem with it. Well, yeah, blind squirrel finds a nut every once in a while. Okay, I'm not going to spend my time, my money, my fuel
Right.
to go out and plant free seed for someone and get 10 pounds of it to grow out of 50.
I've had 10 conversations that have to do with people going, well, my farmer at the end of the year last year gave me these bags of corn. And I go,
Uh,
that's fantastic. But he is planting 3,000 acres in Illinois in the best soil with the best conditions of the best this. And when he dumps one bad bag with four good, but perfect bags, it evens out for him. But when we're only planting 1 acre to 2 acre to 3 acre, and you're planting corn on corn, and you're looking at root worms, and you're looking at all this stuff, for me, there is no better money spent than the actual money you spend on seed, especially corn, especially switchgrass, especially these super fresh ones. Beans is another one. Gets tricky too. Some guys think, well, they'll carry over, and that may happen 1 year and the next year not. But when you're spending money, number one, if you're planting corn and you are not getting, like, you go corn on corn, and if you're not getting a double stack corn and you're not making sure that you're buying fresh seed, you want every one of those little corns to grow, because if you just miss one but you're only planting 1 acre or 2 acre, that's a big giant deal. And then to me, you're my bean guru, between you and Food Plot Kevin that plants so many over the years. And so what do you got going on? I saw some ATA stuff with Lakoski, and you're testing some in Iowa because you guys are both friends with and doing business with. Is that analogic?
yeah, yeah. So we wanted something that was, all the properties I consult, everybody says, I'm not putting beans here because the neighbor does beans, the farmer does beans, they do beans, they do beans. That's the place you want to be doing your beans. That I want to be doing their beans because let's be clear, deer will eat soybeans. I don't care what variety it is.
Right.
They will eat soybeans.
You get weather like we had out here and you had out there with snow, they're eating the beans and they're coming to it in the groves. Groves of deer coming to it, they're going to eat them all. And this year they ate them all out, no matter how heavy I planted them. And probably you the same. I only have one field that's still got it, but the neighbor planted beans. But so what you're trying to do, and I feel like this is what you're trying to do. So when I started, I had the farmer leave ag beans. Second one I started, I went with Don Higgins's Gen 1 stuff, and they were, or no, Gen 2. Went Gen 2, that's great. Now I've got all this mare's tail and all this nasty stuff in Illinois. So now I'm going with Enlist. First couple years they didn't like my Enlist. Now I have my weeds under control, and I think I'm in a place right now to where I want to ask you, the bean man, to teach us a little bit about beans before we go, about the different groups, and then like how that works, and then how it works from planting, minimum of 50 pounds per acre to 200. I think you went 350 an acre. And then how many beans that produces, 400 even. And so I think we spent 5 minutes right here, and then I'll let you go be with your family. I say we spend 5 minutes right here saying, okay, you can plant all these different beans. I'm going to say this. It comes down to making sure the wind's right and the blind's right and everything right and giving us sanctuary and then putting those beans on the edge is number one. I don't care if it's just clover and beans. I don't care what it is, but the leaving them alone and knowing how to strategically set up your farm, which is my specialty, is number one. Number two, when you plant something, make sure that seed's key. That's number two. And then number three is if you have a choice between what you're buying, why are you going to buy this over this? And I think this is where it plays out right now, that you're developing a bean that is the best on the market right now
Yeah.
that you found.
100%.
Okay. Tell us why. Tell us why we should plant that bean from Analogic right now. I'm a customer right now. White Gold doesn't sell beans. I want to know why, what you got going on.
Well, I'll talk about this in my seminars all the time, and people don't understand beans as much as maybe they understand the turnip. Let's talk about turnips. What's the difference between Gold Fever or Gold Rush, Purple Top Turnip, Analogic Purple Top Turnip, Antler King Purple Top Turnip, Real World Purple Top Turnip?
Freshness.
There's nothing different between purple top turnip.
No. There's nothing between them.
No.
The only thing you can look at is who you trust, right?
Yep.
To provide it.
Fresh seed and percentages of what's in those blends. Makes huge differences. Okay. So soybeans, we're getting off topic. Soybeans are soybeans. It's what flavor and groups that we're putting in there. So Analogics is chosen through years. Now look, they've been testing hard for the last 3 years with soybeans that they've given already that have been tested in regards to shatter resistance. I mean, when we're going to plant soybeans, we're going to spend $90, $85 on a bag of soybeans. We don't want them breaking open as soon as they're dry and hitting the ground. They're good turkey food now,
right.
Squirrel food. We want them hanging in the pod. We want that investment to hang until they get eaten. So we want shatter resistant beans. We want beans that are high oil content. We don't want one that's high oil content. We want all five.
So I had a lot of shatter this year. I got beans everywhere feeding turkeys. My whitetails ate them out too fast, and I planted a well-known variety made for deer, but they were the Enlist brand. Okay. They did their job, but this is the first year I've ever had them laying all over the ground because of the high winds and the snow. It put them through the test. Through the test. They're shattered everywhere.
They're not all bulletproof. In respect to some of these other guys that are doing it, I think that they're testing and trying to find the best that they've tested. But we want the best, the ones that are, and a lot of these new beans have that factor, that shatter resistance. So when you couple shatter resistance, high oil content.
Why high oil content? What is the oil? Is that what tracked them? I mean, is like peanut oil for humans or what?
It's attraction and it helps them.
Like fish oil in humans or something? Yeah. Vitamins, sustainability of whatever they're eating, a little,
nutrition.
Okay, nutrition.
Then high pod production. There are guys out there that are just scream about how much forage. When people call me, they say, are your beans forage beans? Well, yes, they're forage beans because they make a leaf. Okay. Do they make the giant leaves like this? Some do. But if you're paying attention to just forage, you're going to come up short when you're deer hunting.
You're going to come up short in December. You're going to come up short in December and January. You're planting just forage beans. And so, listen, I have friends out there that are watching this. That's great that you're buying Eagle forage beans or some forage beans that have that on there. But if you are not planting something else that we're talking about right now, either you're smart enough to buy that bag and this bag and this bag, and you want to experiment, awesome. It's how we got here. But if you don't have time, like we don't have time, you're going to want it all the way already put together. So you got a forage bean in there. Yes, it's a forage bean. And then
so on Eagle Seeds defense, they've got good stuff and they've got pod production in there. they've got a good blend.
Yeah,
Is it
but
as good as ours? I don't think
but
so.
when I planted them, they had the forage and they got 15 feet tall. I mean, they're like giant beanstalk, Jack and the Giant Beanstalk beans. Great.
But they weren't there to hunt over.
They weren't there to hunt over them. It's a good thing that I had some brassicas and some stuff next door. But when I did do that one year, I committed to it and I did it. And I went, I'll never do that again and trust just on that. And that was in the beginning years. But for forage, cool. If you got a decoy bean close to the, if you want to try them, plant them real close to the timber so the other ones can grow. That'd be a good way to do it.
Well, you couple shadow resistance with high oil content, high pod production, and forage, and then meticulously pick maturity groups that are spaced out 2 to 3 weeks apart, so that when this one's maturing, we're going to come back now to this guy that's a little bit tender. This guy gets a chance to dry down. So what I love about analogics is I can call them up and say, hey, do some other calling of your other testers and find out what intel they have. Because what I found maybe a late maturing, we have too many late maturing beans in there, or we got too many early maturing. They tweak it. They go, yeah, we've got the same intel. What do we got to do to change it? So this year, we made a huge change. I said huge change. We made another
significant change in the right direction.
Yeah. We put in, I think I should be giving out all the secrets, but we changed some of these maturity groups that.
And if everybody does, and it'll blow their, I'm seeing the results that you're giving me, but the people don't know. But you understand, guys, that I think I bought like group 2 late in the summer from Cubby Bordeaux up at Bordeaux Brothers, and they're all over what? I bought ones, and I was my goal was to see if I could get them in and to get them to maturity, because the group 1s were the shortest, and the group 7s, right? Does it go any higher?
Oh yeah,
7, yeah. So 1 to 7, guys. Literally, if you ever want to have a lot of fun, you could.
Less than 1. It goes less than 1.
It goes less than 1.
Yeah.
So just to let you know that when you buy beans out there, you're not a farmer, you always plant 3 acres of beans at your farm, whatever. There's these groups that are group 1 to group 7. So when your farmer gives you one, you don't know what he's giving you. When you're just going to plant whatever pheasants forever, somebody gives you whatever, you owe it to yourself and you owe it to your grandkids, you owe it to your kids and your friends and whatever, to be a little more educated in what you're buying and what you're doing. And if you don't have the time to do it, you're going to have to call a guy like me or a guy like Ray or Tim Sisk or whoever, and let them do all this geeked out food plot stuff for you. And then we can tell you why. And then you're going to sound really good and you can learn to love it a little more. Because all we're really trying to do is to get you to learn a little bit more, which you'll love it. And you'll spend more time on this, which is good for your life. And so you've got group 1 to group 7. You can't tell us what groups you have in there, but you're saying that you have worked your butt off to figure out what maturities and then what strains, right? Like, because some of them have big, beautiful, big, almost heart leaves, and then some of them have these little raindrop kind of pin oak leaves on them. And I noticed that driving down the road in Illinois, you'll see beans, and there'll be all these different kinds. And I always find it fascinating. And I wish I always had the time to do what Analogics or you had done and line them all up and go look at the leaves and all that. I have to trust people like you that are planting them, that I know enough to go, I definitely want a blended bean this year that has different maturities and different farms for me. My farm, my deer don't care about eating my beans, so I can grow anything there because they don't eat me out in the summer like some people, because my deer go out and live out in cornfields and eat stuff, and then they all come on to the safety when the season starts and the crops get taken off. Then I have my other place that's close by my house here that I can't grow anything because there's so many animals. So you're trying to, with the different groups, create stuff that's able to keep up with browse pressure and change their palate throughout the season. Is that what I'm hearing?
Browse pressure. Look, when you make that investment that you're putting in late April, early May, and you're spending $80 a bag on soybeans. You want that to start in April or May, and you want that to go all the way through the deer season, and as far as you can make it go. And if you're buying or putting in a single maturity group, which is designed to be put in May and taken out in August, September.
Which is what your farmers are doing. They're putting it in and taking it out here. They're not elongating or what's the word? Just making stretching it out. Our job is to stretch it out for forage, food, and give them the best that they want. Palatability for 3 or 4 extra months.
Yeah. Well, we're doing 11 months. I got beans hanging for 11, 12 months. Okay. And that takes us to how much do you plant? I've got talk to people all the time.
This is the fun part for me when I watch you plant at a ridiculous amount because you're like, listen, I got to show what it is.
That's right. That's right. And people say, I'm not doing beans. They wipe me out. Well, how big was your plot? It was 2 acres. What'd you plant? 50. You read the bag.
You read the bag.
You got to think outside the box. You got to break rules. And we've broken those rules all the way to 400. I'm sure there's guys that are listening to this. That's full of hogwash. You have not. Oh, I have.
I did I did 200 pounds. I'm like, hey man, I think I did too much, or I think I set your record. And he goes, no, I did it at 400. And so you put 400 pounds.
Yep.
And so just so people aren't freaking out about that, let's go with triple the rate. Let's go at 200 pounds to the acre. Still affordable. I mean, it's still, what is it? 300 and something bucks an acre. But once a deer eats a bean at this size, that bean's not growing back. So our goal is to get, if there's 5 of these little guys stacked on top of each other and the deer eats 3, you still got 2 that are going to make it. That's kind of the reason in planting so heavy.
Yep. And the diversity of beans.
Yep.
Yeah. So, I challenge guys or I would recommend guys that have 5 acres and less. No.
For sure, double it.
Oh, for sure. 100
For sure.
to 150 pounds. I've got a guy, the Swiss up in Afton, that I plant for, and we had to jack that bad boy to 150 this past year.
Is that our moose guy?
No, he's just a client of mine.
Okay.
He killed a really good one on his farm.
No, I mean, is this the guy that called me first? And I was like, listen, I'm not a pro on the East Coast. That's our bear guy.
That's the bear guy.
He's got all the bears. The moose guy's got moose in the plots.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. Unbelievable.
Listen, when he originally wanted me to come out, this is how the story went. Sorry, I hijacked the story. When this guy got a hold of me to come all the way out there, and I literally went, that is just so far on the other side of the world for me. Could I do it? Absolutely. It's all about strategy. Is it the right fit? It's not. So I just go, Ray, I need to talk to this guy. I think you'll be best for this. And then you have really enjoyed going up there. Huge, just big country, big rolling stuff, mountains, rocks, moose. But his goal was to get whitetails, doing Midwestern stuff, New York stuff, Pennsylvania stuff up there. And you've flipped them completely around. First off, I would have freaked out at the first real rock. I went to Oklahoma. They're all rocks. And I'm like, what should we plant here? And I'm like, anything we can get to grow. A lot of times I'm like, anything we can get to grow to start, and then let's experiment with some other stuff. Let's just get you some food in here. So anyways, you took that guy, got him to a point where he's having a blast, right?
It's a mecca.
It's big. It's thick.
Incredible. A couple thousand acres of just bliss. You're on the top
of the world. Yeah.
Unreal place. I mean, it is.
And so we're a team, guys. What we're saying is somebody calls me for a consult. I'd love to go out there and make the money. I might not be the best guy. I'm not just going to go get that. I'm just not going to go get paid. We're going to figure out what's best for you. And then even managing your farm or even coming in, like called Ray today and I said, hey, I got a job. he needs 6,000 miscanthus going in. He needs 10 acres of switchgrass. I'm just going to do it as an a la carte deal. I'm going to go in, plant it the way I would plant. You're not buying the labor. You're buying the knowledge of being able to have these discussions and years and years and years of a lot of us that's brotherly in the discussions of what's best for these clients. And we're not going to be the cheapest. I think that's we're not going to be the cheapest, but when we leave, you're going to know that we're going to go home and we're going to think about it. We're going to be like, oh, we got to get there before this. And this is not just a fun and games for us. Like whatever we're planting, whatever we're doing it, full out. So circling back to the beans, for sure, double it. So guys, 100 pounds to the acre across the board. If you want to experiment, here's what I would say, and Ray, back me up on this. If you're out there planting beans this year and you want to triple the rate on the first 50 yards or 100, 50 yards from against the woods, that would be the place that I would way bump up the numbers. Yes?
100%.
Because on the outside, guys, if you just got your regular guys and they don't get nipped, and if it's your first year kind of paying attention to your beans, maybe you planted them before and you're just going with the flow. Listen, you'll be able to tell me, what is it when that bean gets 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 inches? How tall does he have to get before he regenerates? Because isn't there a point where they nip them off and they're just dead?
Well, if they get down below trifoliate, once they get
The
past
trifold, is that
then you're good.
Say that one more time.
Trifoliate.
Trifoliate.
That's the little tiny leaves at the very bottom. If they get that, it's game over.
Game over. And so that's what happens here. So I've had to bump up my numbers or plant an alfalfa underneath. And then once they eat my beans, my alfalfa's coming because I just can't keep up with them. They don't let them grow. So you're saying anything like close to the timber is my recommendation. Anywhere where it's down at the end of a point and you're like, well, I can't afford to plant my whole 3-acre plot in. Where should I plant the heavier? We're going to say this. Plant everything once at your 100 pounds an acre stuff, guys. And then everything closer in, like that second. Remember that backfield that I took you at my place? That half back, which is like the back half acre, double, triple that rate.
Even if you just picture framed the timber or the food plot, come out 10 yards. I don't know if you're drilling or whatever you're doing, however you're doing it. But that's where it's going to get hammered the most.
And wherever it's going to get hammered the most, guys, is what we're saying. Double, triple, quadruple, whatever you can, experiment with it. You'll
be happy you did it.
You'll be happy you did it because even if they just had more to eat there, they're going to leave the rest of this field more alone and let it get past the that's the word of the day.
Trifoliate's down here.
The trifolia.
Yeah. That's your
key.
Engine.
That's your key.
That's your engine that's going to grow that bean.
Yeah.
But you get it past your ankles, they're still going to make soybeans. They may not make the tonnage that you want. They may not make as many as you want. But
I've always heard that sunflowers and soybeans, what's it called? When sunflowers and soybeans, no matter how many you plant, produce the same amount of beans. So that's why they say, well, you can plant 50 pounds the acre. Yeah, if you don't have a critter eat it, and you can plant 200 pounds the acre, it's still going to make the same amount of bean or sunflower. The heads are just going to be bigger or smaller. I don't know what that's called, but that's how it works. So when people go like, yeah, but they're not going to produce as many beans. Well, put it this way. If you have less beans, they're going to be way taller with way more beans per stalk. And sometimes by planting them thin like that, and they do that a lot of times in early November and stuff before these things have kind of fell down. A lot of times I have had problems because you know me, I don't like my blinds 15 feet in the air. I'm a 6 foot, off the ground to still be sneaky. I have a tough time finding the vitals sometimes on these whitetails with these tall beans. So that's another thing that you're able to get shorter beans by more per acre, right? Are you finding this?
Yeah. So the one disadvantage that I found with the 400, 300 rate is there was so much tonnage, so much mass of leaves and stalk that it was so tangled up. And
Yeah.
I didn't lose any pods. The pods were tons of them, and they were big. They were 3 bean, 4 bean, whatever. There was just so much of it, but it was so tangled, and the weight laid her down.
Right.
They still ate every bean. But guys want to see golden brown soybeans. They want to be able to walk through them and see the golden. You're not going to get that. But what you will get is you'll get longevity, and you'll be able to feed those whitetails.
So what's the name? What's the name of the bean that I'm planting this year?
It's the analogic pro soybean.
I'll put in my dealer order. I got to figure up what I got and if any clients want it. And then, so it is the pro soybean.
Yep. Analogic pro soybean.
Analogic pro soybean. They come in 50-pound bags, right?
Yep.
Super fresh. Doing it now.
Yeah. So this new one that we just tweaked this year, I'm so dang excited about this thing. Because
and that's the pro, right? That's what they're coming out with. That's the pro is out, but you guys are finally tweaking it, making it the best one that's out there.
Yeah, we've had it now. We've tested it for 3 years. It came out last year on the market through us exclusively. It did so well. They took that exclusivity away from me. I should beat them for that. But now it's out on the market. We tweaked it a little bit more this year, and it's dynamite.
Awesome. Well, I really appreciate you being here with me today. I have to give a shout out to White Gold. White Gold is making this possible. White Gold Seed Company. You can go to the website, and it's a place where you can order really good quality seed online. Again, we talk about all seeds. This is the one that I prefer, that they can send online. Very easy to buy it in Oregon, get it shipped to Oregon, Texas, Illinois, all over. I wanted to go with a seed company, and I have been, great brassicas. When it comes down to, just like we were talking about turnips earlier, you're going with a company that you can believe that it's quality seed. And there's several of them out there that we work with right now. This is sponsored. This is a little read right now for White Gold. They're sponsoring this show, and they're a partner of mine, and they've been through the last 5-6 years with me. Ray, I've got a couple new blends that I'm coming out with White Gold. One is this nice little acre pack of switchgrass, because people just aren't people have to buy in such bulk at a lot of places, that I wanted to be able to tell the people that call me, hey, you can go and you can get Fort Knox, which is just a nice little blend of the cave-in rock styles and a couple other ones there, that they can just buy an acre at a time. They just want to try it behind their house, a little border on the edge of their fields. So we've got Fort Knox. You can find it at White Gold. You can find it on the internet. And then I have one that you always hear me talk about, Radish Heavy. So they can buy analogics, they can buy anybody else. And then I always tweak it. You always hear me tweak, because these deer out here love their radishes and collard greens. So I've got one that's out, Claim Jumper, which I get to add to your favorite Brassica blend out there with Claim Jumper. And then I have this new mix. We're gonna have to change the name, because one of the other companies has Motherlode, but and I know you love the Motherlode type style stuff. Big sorghum blend with these peas and these beans in it, and some radishes in it, and it's what I've been planting in the front yard and getting these deer. I would love to call it the October rush. Like, it's my October big deer craving the tops of them sorghums. And we've talked about it. You got that blend that you've done that's got the sunflowers and stuff in there. But shout out to White Gold for backing us up. Bordeaux Brothers, and of course Genesis Wildlife Group. And I just man, I really appreciate you getting on here. I've been trying to pin you down, and we're going to get you a good camera and a good mic. And I'd love you to just be a part of what Landlife is and going forward. And it's about, reaching broken men, men like us. We've come from completely two different backgrounds, where you knew the gospel. I did not. I made it almost 40 years without knowing the gospel. And then to know that God's plan is bigger than all of us, and that surrender, that sacrifice, that there are men out there that care. And we're not always going to coddle you or whatever, but we will share the gospel with you, and we will be going that way. And you're welcome to get in the bus with us, because we're going the way of the Lord. So I really appreciate you. You got anything else to say to anybody out there? Where can they find you? Plug away. There's a lot of people that just love good content. And Ray is one of my favorite entertainers, even though he was pretty chill on this podcast. He gets up real early and maybe we just need to give you a little bit of what's Steven's coffee, the hunting. What do you think about the new hunting day coffee?
I love it, man.
Oh my
I
gosh.
actually saw both my stores and stuff. And he absolutely killed it.
Oh, it's the best coffee.
Oh my!
It really is. And you're a coffee guy, like you live off of it.
All the vendors were crying out loud because I was always back in his booth getting more coffee.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
My boys' attention. They actually moved the coffee pot to the front counter in our Pennsylvania store. I'm like, what are you guys doing?
Yeah.
That's great coffee.
So you're normally amped up. Go follow them on Instagram, Genesis Wildlife Group on Instagram. Go check it out. Go give them a like. Go give them a follow. Message them. You got questions? Watch all of his videos. Go back for the past couple of years. Watch all their videos. Facebook as well. And then if they're in Owego, New York, did I say it right?
The little borough of Little Meadows.
Little Meadows, right?
Don't blink.
Don't blink. Little Meadows. We got a new shop there. Lock and Load. Go visit the family. Go say hi. If you need any advice, any consults out there, not only do I do consults on the East Coast, but I can work with you online and then get Ray's advice on what to do to some of these East Coast stuff. Listen, whitetails are whitetails. Setting up, figuring out how to kill them and how to strategize, that's my thing. Second thing that I do is how to put the food in, how to create the structure and the bedding and whatever. It changes, that part changes a little bit as you go to the East Coast, where you're not as gifted in the dirt component like we are in the weather that we have here. And that's where Ray comes in and we can collaborate on a lot of things. Cool blinds. You guys selling all kinds of blinds. You got some shadow hunters. You got some other stuff.
Grizzly. Yep. Jumped on board with them. Great blinds.
Yeah. Iowa company there. They used to be a sponsor of Fear No Evil. I don't know. I'd love to have, normally have Grizzly cups. I still got them. Still got my coolers. They're good guys. Love to have them part of this, but what do you got to say? What do you got to say to people, clients, men? What's your message today?
Well,
you can take a second. It's okay.
No, look, if we can help you for sure, let us know. And we're all over the East Coast and into the Midwest. So if we can help you, let us know. What's one thing I always do is I try to answer my phone. So if I can help you, let me know. And
we try to get you to take a little more time for yourself. And the girls, I know they like their vacations, and you get to fit them in on business trips and stuff.
I only have one left now.
One left now. We're looking for a good man out there. Lord's going to provide one of the sweetest women in the planet. You don't want the last one to get married?
No, heavens no, man.
Oh man, and they'll all be gone. Oh yeah. I'm going to need to put in an order for cinnamon rolls, please. Stat, get them out to Illinois. All right, give all the boys a shout out. So your whole crew, I don't think they get enough. I don't think they get enough credit. So give me a rundown of all the boys.
All right, so we got Kaz, Ben, Sam, Aaron, and my new son-in-law Bobby.
Okay, these are all the guys that. Go ahead. Yeah,
you'll know him. He's only like this tall.
Oh man. So I'm not the shortest in the group at 6'1" anymore.
But I'll tell you what, great man.
Yeah, shout out to those guys for making Genesis Wildlife Group possible and making everything that Ray does and the family does. And it's a family-run business. So check out Lock and Load, Sporting Goods, and then Genesis Wildlife Group. I appreciate you guys. I want to hear it. We want more Ray information, don't we? We can pick certain subjects and dive into it. But thanks, brother, for being here.
I appreciate it. Thanks for having me.
All right. Bye now.